This is Valley News Live at 5.
The Fargo Police Department is currently talking about the city's wildlife management program, and they're looking for input from the public. Valley News Team's J.C. Dodd was at the meeting and is live now to fill us in. J.C.?
Yeah, Andrea, moments ago, the meeting just ended, and Fargo Police invited several community members and huntsmen and sportswomen that came out and talked about why they think a wildlife management program is very needed in Fargo. This program invites 45 applicants and chooses them to hunt deer and turkey throughout the season to regulate the wildlife management throughout Fargo. There's 3 different regions that it manages, but Fargo Police are saying that it's due to the increase of public safety with the population growing throughout Fargo that it's just not needed anymore. The safety concern is too high for the amount of deer they have killed, which Fargo Police says has only been 352 in the past 15 years. We heard from several sportsmen and women throughout Fargo who really want to keep this in place, and they're invited to the City Commission meeting next Monday where they will speak about it further and for review. In Fargo, J.C. Dodd, Valley News Live.
Okay, thanks, J.C. Sounds like you are good to go on any pool plans the next few days since we are back in the hot temps. Hutch is here to tell us what this evening looks like. Hutch?
Yes, and if you're a fan of the somewhat cooler weather we've enjoyed the past couple of days, get out and enjoy tonight. We have a few clouds overhead shown up here from our Grand Forks location where your temperature is 78 degrees. It is cooler on the Minnesota side of the river. Most of us in the mid-70s, 82 for Jamestown as the heat is on in central North Dakota and the Missouri River Valley near 90 degrees there. Spotty showers again in the Arrowhead of Minnesota near Duluth and the Iron Range heading into Lake Superior. For us, we stay dry. Temperatures not too high. We'll be in the upper 70s all the way until the 7 o'clock hour here in Fargo. Quiet conditions, and overnight we slip into the 60s. And likewise, similar forecast conditions for Grand Forks tonight, 60s by bedtime. Coming up though, big time changes on Wednesday. The heat returns, so yes, the swimming pool or the sprinkler, whatever you can run through to stay cool, a good idea, Andrea. And a chance of strong storms for some. I'll have details on the track and timing here in just a moment.
Okay, thanks, Hutch. Bemidji police are searching for a man who they say shot a gun at someone and then jumped out of a second-story window to escape. Officers were called around 1 this morning to the 2800 block of Ridgeway Avenue. The victim told police he was standing in a hallway when the suspect came up to him, pulled out a gun, and demanded money. He told that man he wouldn't hand over any cash, so he says the suspect shot him and ran off. Police later conducted a high-risk search warrant on one of the apartments, and a woman told them the suspect was Robert Needham Jr. Needham is described as Native American, a man who is about 5'10", 170 pounds. He was last seen wearing a white Adidas t-shirt and black sweatpants. If you see him, call police. Bemidji police are also looking for the driver who hit a teenager riding a bike, causing significant injuries. A 17-year-old told officers he was riding his bike on Park Avenue Northwest near 20th Street and was hit by a dark-colored SUV. He thought maybe it was a Chevy Tahoe or Cadillac Escalade. If you have any information, call police. More human remains were found this morning in Minneapolis connected to the death of Adam Richard Johnson. Johnson was 36 and from Minneapolis. Some of his remains were initially found last Thursday in the northeast part of the city, and then more body parts later found in another location. Johnson's cause of death has yet to be determined, and no one's been arrested in the case. He was not reported as a missing person, but investigators believe his death was recent based on the level of decomposition of his body parts. Recent unusually warm weather is contributing to large fish die-offs on Minnesota lakes. The Department of Natural Resources says they've had more calls than usual this year. The fish commonly found in die-offs include sunfish, crappies, bullheads, and occasionally bass and northern pike. A crappie rather. They encourage you to report large groups of dead fish so they can track fish populations and see if the die-off is caused by warming water, chemicals in the lake, runoff from yards, or stormwater from urban areas. Here's the number to call, available 24/7, 651-649-5451. 10 years ago, the sirens went off across Minot, warning of flooding. It's something that has changed the community forever. When the floodwaters started rising, the city called for help. Among those who responded, the North Dakota National Guard. The flood response in 2011 is the North Dakota Guard's second longest mission. They have helped communities across the state survive flooding, whether they're patrolling the levees for leaks or filling and placing sandbags. Flood protection started within a year of the disaster, and it has grown every year since. The projects include a flood wall running along the river through the middle of town and levees in the surrounding area. Minot's Public Works Director says they have made good progress, but they could be farther along with more funding. He estimates it could take another 20 years to complete the Souris River projects at the current funding levels. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is requesting funding to pay for body cameras for State Patrol troopers and Capitol officers. The $7.5 million for the cameras is contained in a transportation funding package that could come for a vote later this week. The bill also includes funding to add nearly 24 state troopers and a dozen additional Capitol security officers. This is a make or break week for President Biden's legislative agenda, including voting rights, police reform, and a massive infrastructure bill. Republicans have the votes to stop or at least slow progress, leaving Democrats with some tough choices on how to get around the hurdles. Alice Barr has the latest from Washington.
Mr. President.
Senate Democrats going ahead with a key test vote on a voting rights protection bill, even though they knew it would fail against a united wall of Republican opposition. The For the People Act expands voter registration and early voting and tightens rules around election security, finance, and ethics. Republicans claiming it would do more harm than good.
It's a recipe for undermining confidence in our elections.
But Democrats say it's necessary as Republican state legislatures enact restrictive voting laws in response to the former president's false claims that he won the last election.
Because of one man's lie, Republicans are now doing the dastardly act of taking away voting from millions of Americans.
The question heading into tonight's vote, would Democrats hold together? Moderate Joe Manchin has proposed changes to the bill, but supports moving ahead to a debate.
I got to make sure that we're going to move to a better compromise. Okay.
Even with Senator Manchin, 10 Republicans would need to sign on. Democratic leadership hoping to do away with the filibuster, changing the rules to pass this bill with a simple majority. But that rule change seems doomed to fail too, after Democratic Senator Kyrsten Sinema voiced her opposition in an op-ed. The 50-50 Senate split holding up President Biden's other major priorities as a bipartisan group of lawmakers tries to bridge the divide on a massive infrastructure bill.
A separate group of lawmakers from both parties has been working toward a long-sought police reform package. Lead negotiators are now signaling they could release a framework as soon as this week. North Dakota Republicans have shaken up their leadership. Chairman Rick Berg stepped down from his position, choosing not to run for re-election after 3 years on the job. Mandan businessman Perry Schaefer is the new GOP district chairman. In addition to the change at the top, the GOP also replaced 4 key leadership positions. A young Fargo man pours his heart into his job as grocery bagger at the Osgood Hornbachers and has left a lasting impression throughout his 11 years. What was supposed to be an online hiring ad starring Miles Frost ended with a nearly 600 comments and dozens of shares, with people from all over the valley sharing their praise for Frost's friendly personality and his famous fist bumps.
I can count multiple times where I've been on the front end and I'll go up to customers and say, this till is open down here if you want to step down. And they're like, nope, I'm just going to wait for Miles.
You can catch this story tonight on Valley News Live at 6. Still to come, you can find it in nearly every state in the U.S., but it's a plant you should steer clear of. What you need to know about poison hemlock and its scary reputation, coming up.
Today so far, 78 is great. What are your thoughts on 88? As hot weather is on the way, a few thunderstorms too could be marginally severe. We'll track these and have your outlook coming up right after this.